back in session, parties and counsel are present, and our witness is back on the witness stand, and Mr. Moline, you may continue your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective DuGal, I was going to get to the cadaver dogs before the break, so on February 19th, when you were executing this search warrant, you said on direct examination that you called in the cadaver dog. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Does that mean that while you were there, you called it in, or do you mean that you called it in prior to the execution of the warrant?
I'm sure I called it in prior to, because it takes some time to get the volunteers to get their dogs together and bring them.
And San Diego actually has a, when I say San Diego, I mean the San Diego Sheriff's Department has a canine task, or canine force, correct?
I think what you're referring to is the cadaver dogs come from the volunteer search and rescue unit from the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
The search and rescue canine unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And they have a manual, correct, that cadaver dogs and their handlers have to have a certain amount of training to have the proper certification, correct?
I have no exposure to that.
Okay.
I would assume so, but I don't know.
Do you, as a homicide detective, do you familiarize yourself with what the capabilities of a cadaver dog are?
Well, sure, I've had many cases where I've used cadaver dogs.
So then you would know that the cadaver dog not only is trained to find a scent of decomposition, as you indicated on direct examination,
yes,
but also for other substances. Would you agree?
If the dog is trained for other substances, that's true.
Okay. Well, in order to get certified as a cadaver dog, do you know the certifying agency that certifies cadaver dogs?
No idea.
Okay. If I told you it was the California Office of Emergency Services, would that ring a bell? Okay. But as far as you know, all the dogs that San Diego uses are certified, as far as you know.
As far as I know.
Okay. And part of the certification, they would have to be not only trained for...
Objection, Wax Foundation.
You called in the cadaver dogs. Were you aware whether or not these cadaver dogs were trained to pick up the scent of blood or dried blood?
No, I brief the search and rescue handlers. I tell them exactly what we're doing there. I show them the search warrant that gives me permission to do what we're doing. And I tell them I'm essentially looking for 4 persons, 2 adults, 2 children, and any sign of them. Do what you can do. That's the reality behind it.
And anything that they could pick
I
up?
don't care what they can do. As much as they can provide, do it.
And in addition to the cadaver dogs, because the cadaver dog is part of a team, correct? Would you agree?
Yes.
There's handlers as well.
The handler is always with the dog.
And the handler is just as important, if not more important, than the actual dog,
Objection, Wax
correct?
Foundation.
Did you know these handlers? Had you worked with them before?
With one of the female handlers, and I vaguely know her last name, but I don't even know if I'd get it right if I reiterated it.
And you know that San Diego actually has a reputation for having one of the best
Objection,
canine
Wax
units.
Foundation.
Do you know what the reputation of San Diego's canine unit is?
Objection, relevance.
You've worked with this handler before, and she's very competent. Would you agree?
I find her very
Objection,
competent.
relevance, calls for speculation.
So, the cadaver dog, I think you indicated, went around the outside of the house. Is that correct? But
Yes.
you don't remember the dog going inside.
I don't remember going inside.
I'm saying dog, but you said dogs. So was it more than one?
More than one.
How many do you recall?
And 2 or 3 from memory.
And each with its separate handler.
Yes.
Okay. And do you know how long they were there? I don't want an exact time frame, but were they there more than an hour, less than an hour? Do you recall?
More than an hour.
And their work was limited to the outside of the house, the perimeter.
That's what I briefed them on, and I remember them coming back and saying that they actually walked their dogs through the neighborhood on their own, and that was fine. Again, I said, do what you can do. Legally, do it.
So they were very thorough, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Now, I'm going to show you an exhibit. I believe it's number 20, but we're going to pull it up now, okay?
Absolutely.
And you'll be able to see it on your screen.
Yes.
This would be exhibit 20. I think you've been shown this photograph before, correct?
I've seen this photograph many times, but I think even in these proceedings, I've seen it.
And we're going to go to a series of photographs after this, but on this photograph, can you tell whether the door is open, the front door?
It's open.
Okay. And if we could just scale out, I asked you earlier about the press, and you had said you indicated you remembered the camera guy being there on the 19th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that's him, right?
Well, this is the photograph when you said that, the press was there on the 19th. This is the photograph I remember. I didn't take the photograph, so I wasn't standing there. This confirms somebody with a camera, probably the press, is outside our perimeter.
Okay, let's go to the next. This would be 21. So this is the door being open, correct?
This is the door open.
Right. The door open. We saw the previous photograph. This is just an extension of the front door, and we can clearly see that it's open, correct?
Yes.
And would you say that the entire time you were there, that the door, when you were doing the search warrant, that the door remained open?
No.
Somebody closed it?
I know we closed it.
Okay. When you left or during the warrant?
During
the search?
During the search.
Okay. When do you think that was? And for what purpose?
Well, we would close the door to eliminate the press from invading on the search,
Okay.
but just for the privacy of the search. That's it.
All right. How about when the dogs arrived? Do you remember if the door was open or not?
I don't know because I would have stepped outside to brief the handlers.
Okay. Do you recall? Okay. Now, you would want the cadaver dogs to be able to pick up scents within the house too, wouldn't you?
If I had reason to believe that there was decomposing bodies in the house.
Well, the handlers went all over the neighborhood, as you indicated. You didn't have reason to believe that going all over the neighborhood would find the family, did you?
Objection, misstates the testimony, so you
Sustained and also sustained this argument is
You were letting them do what they wanted to do, correct? The handlers?
I directed them to what I wanted them to do, and then I later found out that they extended that to what they wanted to do, and I was appreciative of what they did.
Okay. Did you tell them that you wanted them, or you wanted their dogs to try to pick up any scents within the house?
No,
Why?
because during our search, we didn't find any bodies or any indication of body parts. Decomposition is not an issue inside the house.
So what if there's hidden material that you can't see? Wouldn't you want them to pick up those scents?
Objection, argumentative, lacks foundation.
Isn't it just as important to pick up scents within the house that maybe are not visible with the naked eye?
Objection, argumentative.
sustained also since that's not evidence.
So is your answer that you did not direct them to try to pick up scents within the house? Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you told them to try to pick up a scent on the outside of the house?
That's correct.
And they were there for more than an hour, and they didn't pick up any, or alert to any scents, as far as you are aware, correct?
I was never informed that there was an alert.
Okay. Did they go near the garage area, as far as you remember?
I didn't walk with them, so I don't know.
Okay. But do you recall whether or not you opened the garage door at any time during the warrant, sir?
I know I personally did not open the garage door, but I remember assigning 2 detectives to search the garage area, so they may have.
Do you know whether or not the dogs went around the house or near the garage area when the garage door was open?
I told you I didn't walk with the dogs. I was doing a search inside the house.
you were briefed how many times by cadaver handlers?
I don't get briefed, I brief them.
Were you ever briefed by them?
You're saying a debrief. Afterwards?
Debrief.
Afterwards, they came to me and they said they found nothing suspicious
Okay. That was at the very end.
at the very end.
Okay. So there was two contacts with cadaver dog handlers. One at the outset, and then one debrief at the end.
The important meetings, that simplifies it. I may have run across them throughout the search, I don't know, but I remember me briefing them, and I remember them debriefing me.
Okay. But you don't recall ever saying, hey, Mr. Handler, let's go by the garage and see if we can get a scent near the garage area?
No.
Okay. Now, on the 19th, I briefly asked you this yesterday. On the 19th, during the search warrant search, as far as the kitchen area was concerned, you made it a point not only to testify about it, but also put it in your report that the kitchen had completely changed in terms of what you saw on the 15th when you did your clearing, as opposed to the 19th, correct?
Actually, misstates the evidence is the completely,
Had changed. I'll leave out the word completely. That the look of the kitchen had changed.
I don't object that he didn't make the point to testify, he was asked a question.
Overruled the case.
Kitchen was different.
Okay. So if you could look at your report, page 9.
On there.
It's the first full paragraph towards the end, just after you note the 2 bowls of popcorn.
Okay,
And you made note of did you write the kitchen was completely cleaned out?
that is in my report.
Okay. And that's what you remember, correct?
Yes, but now from memory, completely cleaned up would indicate if my wife would disagree.
But that's what you wrote, right?
I wrote that.
Okay. And the master bedroom was also straightened out, correct?
It is in my report that way.
Okay. So there were changes that you noticed, obviously, from the 15th to the 19th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, going upstairs, to the upstairs area, council showed you some photographs of the bathroom. I think you said it was the master bathroom. You know what bathroom I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So, I'm going to first show you the photograph of February 15th, and that's going to be, so, 15, exhibit 15.
That photograph's from the 19th.
Let's take a look. So this, you recall this being from the 19th? You say it's from the 19th.
Because I don't remember seeing in Deputy Tingley's series, he only had, I think, 7 photographs. He wasn't that specific.
Well, who is that in the mirror?
That's Deputy Tingley?
Okay, and he wasn't there on the 19th, was he?
No,
So
I
this
stand corrected. That's
so this
on
is
the
a-
15th.
Okay. All right, so, and then we're gonna, the council showed you an exhibit of that same bathroom on the 19th. Do you recall that?
I don't know if they showed me this photo or one of
No.
Dennis Williams' photos then.
Just, what I'm saying is the same bathroom.
Same bathroom.
Yeah. Okay,
I agree.
so, this is that same bathroom, is that correct?
That is.
Okay. And this would be on the 19th, correct?
Yes.
Because we don't see Deputy Tingley in the mirror, do we?
That's my FET, Dennis Williams.
Okay. So, was there any changes that you noticed in this bathroom from the 15th to the 19th?
When? Right now?
That you were able to observe?
Between my welfare check and then coming in with a search warrant?
Yes.
I did not notice the difference.
And but you physically went up there yourself, correct?
We cleared every room in the house on the 15th, and during the search warrant, at some point, I entered every single room again.
What exhibit is this?
625. There might be a better photo of that. Okay. So, you didn't notice any difference there. Counsel showed you, when he showed you this photograph, or a similar photograph of this bathroom on the 19th, there was some sponges in the bathroom. Do you recall seeing any sponges on the 19th?
I only know them from the photographs. I don't specifically remember sponges from any moment in 2010.
Okay. So you didn't make any mental note of it or any written note of it?
No.
Okay. 113, let's take a look. This might be a better photograph.
255 on file.
There you go. And I don't know if counsel showed you this photograph or not, but I'm showing it to you now. Exhibit 113, and I believe he did. So there were some sponges noted there. Do you know if those sponges were there on the 15th?
I don't know.
Okay. And when you spoke to Susan, she said she was there on the 16th, correct? Oh,
She
you talked
called
to her on
me
the 16th.
from the house and said she was there on the 16th.
And she said she was cleaning, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Was there anything of note in the master, I know you said that you didn't note anything down in your report, but was there anything else in this master bathroom that caught your attention?
Well, it was messy.
Okay. And you did make a note of that in your report, correct? That it was messy. That's your observation.
I remember it being messy back then. I don't know if it's in my report, but probably.
Did you collect any of the clothing as evidence in this master bathroom?
No.
If we go a little bit before this, a little bit behind it, there's a photograph of some clothes on the counter in the center of the bathroom. I guess I need numbers, so we'll have to wait on that. Let's try 114. There we go. These clothes, this clothing, was any of this collected on the 19th?
No.
Okay. You didn't see any evidentiary value to any of this, correct?
No, it looked like Summer's clothes piled up on the kitchen sink, or on the bathroom sink.
Okay. Were there any children's clothing on the kitchen, bathroom sink?
Yes. In the previous photograph.
All right. And none of that was, none of the children's clothing was collected either, correct?
No, but it was documented with photography.
Okay. And there was a room upstairs also that had clothes like all over the floor.
That's actually the master bedroom walk-in closet.
Oh, walk-in closet. None of the clothing there was all taken either, correct?
No.
So would it be fair to say that none of the clothing upstairs was gathered as evidence? Is that correct?
I had no evidentiary value with the clothes I was observing at that point.
Okay. Did members of the homicide team go in and handle that clothing and look at it and see if there's anything out of sorts with it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so all of it was handled, it was inspected, and we saw all the photographs of those, but nothing of evidentiary value was found, correct? With the clothing?
Right.
Okay. making our way then downstairs, you testified yesterday about a table. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And when counsel asked you that, a question about, he showed you some spots on the table, and you said that it looked like blood to you.
Could be.
Okay. Could be. Okay. You also said that you and members of your homicide team, which you indicated was very experienced, correct?
Yes,
You all, at one time or another, may have sat at that table as well, correct?
that's true.
Okay. So, and not one person ever, as far as you know, documented seeing any blood on that table, correct?
I know there was no documentation of those spots.
And clearly, if it was even if it was like hot sauce or something, if it was a substance of some sort, that would have caused you to at least make a note of it, or test it, or whatever.
I would have absolutely tested it. It's called a Castlemeyer test for blood. It's very easy.
And Miss Williams actually had that substance with her. So if Miss Williams had seen anything that remotely resembled blood, she could do a quick test, presumptive test, to see whether or not it tested positive, correct?
That's right.
Okay. And out of all the people on that table that sat there, nobody requested Miss Williams to do that with any of those spots on the table, correct?
Well, we didn't see the spots,
Okay.
but the answer is yes.
And you didn't feel the spots either, did you?
No, I would have noted them.
Right, you didn't feel any substance either.
No.
Okay. And have you ever seen, you know what a wood stain is?
Oh, sure.
Sometimes wood has stains, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes wood is intentionally stained as well, correct?
Yes.
And sometimes it's stained with marks as counsel showed you. Would you agree?
Not in my experience, but I can't say that it would not happen.
Okay. Would you agree that since you guys were all sitting at the table, or you were at least at some point, and maybe some
I did.
others, that the dots that counsel showed you were part of that wood?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Yeah, I would have.
The objection sustained calls for speculation and conclusion.
So, since nobody requested anything to be done with that table, by the way, let me ask you that. Somebody was there photographing, I think Miss Williams was actually photographing as well, correct?
She is my photographer for that.
And she took several pictures of that table, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to see if we can maybe get those photographs up. I think we might, 39. We'll go to 39 first. There we go. This is a photograph that, on the 19th, that Miss Williams would have taken, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you say that you direct her, are you with her when she's taking these photographs?
Some of the time, more specifically, she has a general job to do from the beginning, the onset. She takes overalls. After the overalls are taken and I enter and I start searching, it's much more directed at that point.
Now, Miss Williams actually is trained to look for blood, right? That's one of her jobs.
Max Foundation. Calls for speculation. We're going to hear from Ms. Williams.
I'm sorry, what was the objection?
We're going to hear from Ms. Williams. This lacks foundation. Calls for speculation. It's key.
Oh, we will, okay, I'm sorry.
Your question is Miss Williams in the residence to locate blood?
Yes.
No.
Why is she there?
She's a forensic evidence tech. She actually is managing the camera and waiting for direction on evidence to be tested or collected.
Okay, so who's in there looking for blood? Are you one of the folks looking for blood?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're looking, were you with her when she took this photograph?
I don't know.
Were you with her when she took any of the photographs of the table?
I don't know that either.
Now, Miss Williams actually tested a substance that she thought might be blood, correct?
that I thought was blood.
That you thought was blood. So you directed her towards that, right?
Yes.
And where was that spot?
I remember there being some type of book on the second floor, second story on the floor, and it had a brown reddish spot on it. And I asked her to use a Kastle-Meyer test to tell me if that was blood or not.
It was on the book or in a book?
I think it was on the cover of the book from memory.
Okay. And do you remember what room that was in?
No, I'd have to guess. Either, no, I don't know.
And yeah, let's see if this refreshes your memory. We'll show you exhibit 727. We're going to zoom in on it and see if this refreshes your memory.
That's it.
That's it. So this was upstairs, obviously. You can see the railing there, right?
Yes.
And we'll go to 728. And Miss Williams actually put a placard there, maybe at your direction.
I'm sure it was.
Okay. And we see that's a placard A.
Yes.
And we'll go to 729. Okay. And that was the spot. Can you, with your pointer, if it's still
Sure.
up there, just point to what you saw that you thought could be blood?
The obvious concern, there's some here, some there, some there, some there. It actually looks like, to me, it looks like blood smears.
Okay. So, as the homicide detective that you are, you called over Miss Williams and you said, number one, let's photograph it, and number two, let's do a presumptive test.
That's true, I don't have, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, and this is a pretty good find by you. This was upstairs. It seems to be rather small.
Sustained.
So, she did the test, right? Did she do it right there in front of you?
She does.
Okay, and it tested negative, correct?
Tested negative for blood.
Okay. Was there any other areas in the house that you directed her to do a presumptive test?
For blood?
Yes.
Not that I remember.
Okay. Let's go back to that table.
Okay.
The table, do you know who the table belonged to, other than the, the obvious it was in Joseph's house, but did it belong to a family member? Do you recall?
The assumption is it's furniture in the house that belongs to Joseph and Summer McStay. I didn't question anyone then or anyone to this date who owned that table.
Do you know if any other family members loaned any furniture to Joseph and Summer since they were in this kind of transition period?
No.
Okay. You made no inquiry as to who had that table or where the table was after the 19th. Would that be accurate?
Although this table appears very important in the last couple days, this table had no significance to me up until within the last 7 days.
Okay, so let's talk about that as well. You said that the table issue was brought up to you by the district attorney's office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So how did that actually work? Did they call you up and say, hey, Detective DuGal, come on down, we want to show you something? Or were you here to testify already? How did that work?
I was here to testify.
Okay, and who did you speak with specifically about the table?
Both prosecutors, the male prosecutors.
Okay, and they called you to their office to talk about it, and they showed you some photographs?
They actually just said, why don't we meet before you're around the stand and we'll review what we're going to go over. I said, okay.
Okay, and they specifically brought out the pictures of the table?
They did.
How many did they show you?
I think they showed me this picture and said, what do you see? And I said, the table. And then they zoomed in and said, now what do you see?
Okay, and did they tell you that, doesn't that look like blood to you? They gave you their opinion of what they thought it was.
No.
That never happened?
They said, what do you see? What do you think that is?
Did you guys record this interaction?
No.
Okay. And did you tell them, as the detective you are, did you tell them, look, I was sitting at that table. That ain't blood, guys. Otherwise, I would have had it tested.
No.
How come you didn't tell them that?
Because if I knew one way or another, if I had seen it and documented it, it would have been either not blood, not worrisome, or it was potentially blood and I would have had it tested.
On the 19th, when you went in for the search warrant, the national media had already been involved in this case. Would you agree?
No.
There was no national media involved?
On the 19th, not that I knew of.
Okay. You knew that there was intense media, at least local media. We saw one camera there, right?
Local media was aware, obviously, on the 19th, and as I told you, my days at work and documentation in here, I'm not watching the news. I don't know who's covering it.
But one of your concerns, even after the 15th, was let's get the media involved so we can get the word out there. Let's
So
get
I
this.
did that.
Right. So you were actually yourself, after the 15th, putting the word out there to the media, correct?
I don't think it was that, you're bringing it all the way back to the 15th?
Well, that's when you went and you were investigating a missing persons
Yes.
situation, right?
But I wouldn't have reached out to the media on the 15th. It would have been sometime after that.
That's what I
And
said.
days after that.
You concluded your work on the 15th at night. You had testified previously, so I don't expect you to do anything on the 15th. But certainly on the 16th or the 17th, one of your goals is to get this family's picture out there. Has anybody seen this family, correct?
I would agree, but I don't know if I contacted the media that early.
Okay. Do you know if you contacted them before you executed the search warrant?
I don't know.
Okay. You said, did you not testify that there was a sense of urgency from the moment you found out that this family was gone for 11 days?
Yes, but my urgency in 4 days, I can guarantee you, isn't the media. It's interviewing family members, interviewing business partners, interviewing friends, getting a story. Where are these people? What's their normal routine? That's the 4 days, plus authoring a search warrant to get back in that house so I can take a good look to cover in case there was a crime committed in the house. The media would have been a very far afterthought.
But the media would, well, you don't remember. Your testimony is you just don't remember if it was before the 19th or when.
I can guarantee you, I didn't reach out to the media because this is a discussion I would have with my lieutenant who interacts with the media and puts out press releases. And at some point I would say, I want to use the media to our advantage to get this out for any sightings of the family or anyone who has knowledge of this family. But I don't know when that occurred. And I don't know, sometimes the lieutenant puts out press releases without my knowledge.
But when you discussed this with your lieutenant, it was agreed upon you two that getting this out to the media would be important so that if anybody were to see this family, that they could perhaps call in.
That absolutely happened.
Okay. And whether it's media-driven or whether it's just your own department, there was a lot of, there was a sense of urgency to find this family, what had happened, and to get to the bottom of this, right from the outset. Would you agree?
I've had that sense of urgency all the way until the bodies were discovered.
So certainly on the 19th, when you're looking at the evidence, and the entire team in the house is using every bit of their skill, okay, to find something that would give them some sort of lead, correct?
Yes, and we're looking for anything, everything,
Okay.
but we don't know the story.
Right. Your Honor, is this a good time to break? Because we wanted to address an issue. I don't know if
I'm not gonna do that now, we might do it at the end of the day.
at the end of the day. Okay.
You got another 5 minutes.
All right. Thank you. Now, inside the house, there was. You had said that there was some forensic whatever we want to call it. I'm going to use technicians. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just going to use forensic technician for lack of a better word, okay?
Gotcha.
Criminalist, forensic tech, and
Those
you
are
can
two
correct me
different
if I'm
people.
wrong.
Those
Okay,
are
I
two
know they
different
do-
people.
They do two separate things, I understand. But there was folks inside the house that were capable of looking for and dusting for fingerprints. Would you agree?
Your statement right there combines two persons.
Okay,
Me,
let's
the
start with the
searcher,
first one.
and Dennis, the collector.
Okay, so there's two sets. One is, again, just like with blood or another substance, there's someone there to direct other members of the homicide team to perhaps look for fingerprints.
That's me.
And then there's someone else there to, if a fingerprint is found, to lift it or to document it in some way.
That's Dennis.
Okay. Was there anyone else there that had those capabilities?
Well, obviously, the investigative team all have the same ability to search as I do, and they were directed to do so by me. But Dennis isn't, I think the confusion here is Dennis isn't a searcher. She's a human, so if she sees something, she may turn to me and say, "Hey, Troy, what about that?" And then we discuss it and we proceed forward.
What
But
about
she's not the search team.
What about a criminalist? Does the criminalist have?
Criminalist is not part of the search team.
Not part of the search team.
No.
Okay. You're part of the search team.
Yes?
The other detectives in the house were part of the search team.
Yes.
Okay. So, did you guys search for fingerprints? In the house, in the house.
We talked about, we're looking, fingerprints would be related, so when you say fingerprints, we would have to dust every surface to look for fingerprints in the house. So it's not looking for fingerprints. Number one, the naked eye can't typically see fingerprints, so it requires a manipulation of chemicals or dust or powder or whatever to lift those fingerprints. So we're looking more for forced entry, signs of a struggle, somewhere where some suspicious event has occurred, then the direction of fingerprints would be taken. Did we lift any fingerprints? I don't remember lifting any fingerprints. I don't know that we got to that point.
I'm not suggesting that you could see a fingerprint with your naked eye in all situations. What I am suggesting is, did you direct whoever, whether it's Ms. Williams or someone else, to look in places such as door jambs, door handles, things of that nature, and either dust for fingerprints in those locations or look for fingerprints in those locations?
The investigative team, including Dennis Williams and the criminalist, and all the detectives, we had a very detailed brief of what we were looking for, which was, we went over all of that. It was very detailed. Let's look at baseboards, floors, walls, ceilings, move things, manipulate things, tell me if it's out of place, tell me what when you're using life experience, what are you seeing? What's unusual about what you're finding?
In the entire house, was there any member of the search team, did they direct anyone to document or look for a fingerprint in a certain location?
Not that I remember.
And why is that?
We didn't come into that scenario that I kind of just described.
Why not just dust, like, let's say, the door handles or the window handles, just to see if there's any fingerprints on areas such as that?
You could, but you could ask me for the next 2 hours, why not do this, why not do that? The truth is, it would take far too long. We would be there weeks to complete the task you just said, to arbitrarily dust everything for fingerprints. That's just fingerprints. And then we would have to look for DNA on every item. It's not how we do business. It's not how we could do business.
I understand you can't go through the whole house, but what about places like the front door or the garage door, places like that? Maybe pick out a few places.
If the front door had forced entry, we would have done that.
Well, what about the handle?
The
What about
handle,
the door handle on the front
Good.
door?
if you were leading the investigation, maybe you would have directed that. I did not.
Okay. What about the garage door? From the inside, going out?
There was nothing suspicious that would have led me to direct the collection of fingerprints at the locations you have deemed.
Did you look for anything regarding shoe prints?
We did.
Did you direct any of your technicians to document any footprint evidence? Or look for footprints?
We definitely looked, and I don't know if there was documentation. It would have probably been outside somewhere around the window if it happened, and I'm not sure. I mean, I'm thinking back 9 years, so I don't remember.
Did you document one footprint inside or outside the house that anybody reported in some way?
Not that I remember.
We'll go ahead and take our new recess this time until 1:30. Keep in mind the admonitions previously given to you. Don't perform or express any opinions about the case, not to discuss the case or allow anyone to discuss the case with you or in your presence. Also, again, remind you, statements and questions of the attorneys are not evidence. Anything suggested in a question is not evidence. Only the witness's testimony is evidence. And we'll see everyone back at 1:30.